different avenues. Eric, give me 1 second.
Just so you guys know, so like we had a speaker canceled this morning and like last minute, and I was on a call with Patrick about like 8 minutes ago, and I was like, "Hey, would you mind coming to talk to our Seven Eagle Academy students about higher education opportunities and things like that after the military?" And he's like, "Sure, I got a cancellation, I can make it." So, man, Patrick, I just wanted to say in front of this group, thank you so much for being flexible and on the fly, being able to show up and give us some value today. So really appreciate you for being here, brother.
I'm happy to do it.
Oh. Well, with that, folks, I'd love to introduce you to Patrick Adcock. He's currently Associate Director of Military Outreach and Veteran Partnerships at Excelsior University. He has a huge background in helping the veteran community, tied in greatly with our community, and continues to give back. Obviously, he's also a fellow veteran of the U.S. Army as a MP, correct? Military police?
Don't make that known.
Oh, come on. There's a ton of folks on here right now that can
Yes,
relate.
yes. Military police officer. Yes, I was in the Army.
There's a lot of people that can relate to your background, trust me. But thank you so much. Like Tyler said, thank you for jumping into the gap and filling that gap for us this morning, and being able to talk to these individuals, and give your insights and your expertise on that transition process, what to look forward to, and then what Excelsior University and what you're doing to help support the military community.
Absolutely. And just to let everybody know, I'm going to drop my work email with Excelsior and my LinkedIn in the chat real quick, so everybody has that if they need to reach out in any way.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, I'd love for you to just take a few minutes and really kind of tell us your background, where you came from. You don't have to mention military police, but I already did. But and how you are, the transition process that you went through, and then now, what you're doing now with Excelsior and how you're still giving back to the military community.
Absolutely. So, honestly, I think always say that my transition was abnormal, but anybody that's doing it or have done it, when is it normal? What does a normal transition look like? I was medically retired after my 2012 deployment to Afghanistan. So I was coming back. I was dropping my CID packet. I had everything ready to go. I was great. I'm a careerist. This is happening. And then I do my physical and I get flagged. And then, well, back then, 2014, it took 18 months to get mid boarded. So I get my retirement, I get my blue ID, and then I'm just like, what do I do? So all I knew at the time was I get money for going to school full time. How does that work? So that's what I started doing. I just started using my benefit, no real plan, just needed the cash flow to, I was in transition. My retirement didn't kick in for 3 months. I had all this stuff going on. I still have bills to pay. Then I got into higher education. I didn't get in the first school I wanted because my transcript sat on a desk somewhere forever. I didn't have much in transition or transcripts, but they just sat, and then I missed the deadline, and like, what do I do? Then I found a school that had rolling admissions, which was great. So I got in, got through and got into school, and my life in higher ed really took off after my second semester in. I had a 5 hour block in the middle of my day of my classes that were on site. And I think I was like one of three people that used our military like lounge on the campus. So I had to drive an hour to and from campus. So I didn't want to drive home for an hour and then have to drive all the way back just for one class. So I stayed. Well, a retired command sergeant major was their director at the time. He goes, "Hey, I need a work study. You're always here. Are you interested?" And that's literally how I got into the role of outreach in military outreach. And then I started mentoring and helping other veterans that was going through the same thing. I'm like, "Oh, don't do that, do this." And then they had me start certifying benefits as a school certifying official. So I started working with the GI Bill and then doing conferences that he didn't want to do. And so then started working on the career side of outreach. And then I finished my degree from that school. So I left and got my bachelor's done, then left and did my master's. And but then became a full-time SCO, then did full-time outreach. Since then, I've was in the corporate world, and then now I'm back in a higher education institution trying to help students use their benefits. And here at Excelsior, specifically, I'm just trying to help people, one, not make the mistakes I did, because I feel like I didn't maximize my benefit. I feel like I could have gotten more out of it had I had a plan or goal or whatever. And then I'm in a position at Excelsior now that I get to actually help sort of mold and change how we work with military and military affiliate students. So a lot of new policies are being put in place, changing or reversing policies that were actually a detriment to the military community. And then being in the partnership world, I get to work with organizations like Seven Eagle. So I love Seven Eagle. When we came on board together, it was phenomenal. Um, to really help my current students and then find new existing students that either want to upskill or reskill their education benefit.
No, I appreciate that. And I think there's a lot of questions, we've with speakers we've had before, and I know that it's probably a common theme for folks to talk about, what's the best way to maximize their benefits as they transition out, right? Whether it be GI Bill, because most folks probably don't qualify for TA anymore as they're in SkillBridge, but what's the best way to use their GI Bill benefits as they go to college, and whether it be certification or degree plan. Um, and with your insights and your background and what you do at Excelsior, could you explain kind of the pitfalls maybe that you've seen veterans leaving the service that have made using those benefits?
So when I did one-on-one individual counseling for education benefits, specifically to come into school and they want to know how to maximize their time or benefit, my favorite question to ask the individual, the first question I would ask, whether it was a spouse, a dependent using their benefit, or the actual veteran service member, was, why are you using your benefit? Are you, and I'm very candorous. I'm very blunt and straightforward. There's no ambiguity here. I would ask point blank, are you coming to school for the money? Are you coming to school for the education? My favorite answer of all time is always, can I do both? Yes, you can, but there's a way to schedule your or create your schedule so you're a full-time student to receive your maximum MHA. There's a way to structure your schedule so there's efficiencies built into it so you're finishing ahead of time, because I think one of the big lies we're sold in higher education, and I'll take a wooden bet to higher education as a whole. So I'm not this higher education person selling it. It's not for everybody. It's not every program's right for everybody. So, but I will say, how do you maximize your time efficiently, so you don't feel like you wasted it? You want a quality education, but you don't want to waste your benefit either. So if you're coming for the money, you want to draw that time out. You want to take the longest road possible to the goal if you ever want to complete, just because you want to cash that check. Now, I'm not saying that's a great thing to do, because you might come back to regret it. But if your goal is education and you got this step, then this step, then this step, it's all right, how much can we compress your schedule so you're getting the max credit available and still maximizing your benefits? So those are those questions that you really got to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Is higher education that I'm doing this? And the one thing I try to explain to what I call traditional higher ed individuals, which are a lot of your school administrators, believe it or not, that school is a part of the journey, not the goal. And a lot of times, higher education institutions treat you like you've got to be here or this is something you have to do. Higher education is not something you have to do to reach your goals. But sometimes you need that degree just so you can check the box on the resume or check the box on the application. And it's frustrating because nobody else is going to give you a look or even a talk or an interview because you don't have a credential or a degree. And that's frustrating as well. So understanding that part of the higher education journey is huge. And finding the school that works best. I'm not here to sell Excelsior, but I'm here to explain that Excelsior can do some of those things, but we're don't have a huge mile deep catalog like some of the public institutions do and things like that. So yeah, higher education is one of those things that it's filled with barriers. You got to turn in form after form, and then when you're using GI Bill, there's even more forms. There's even more stuff you have to turn in because they want to make sure your money's right. They want to make sure this is right. So there's a lot of that is like just extremely frustrating at times. So understanding the barriers. You just got to understand, just like the military, it's going to suck at times. It's going to be difficult. But one of my favorite things from a retired command sergeant major that I worked for was um, he used to let any first enlistment individual, if you're in a first enlistment, you can complain all you want, but he would walk around like chow hall lines on bases and on the barracks, and if he heard somebody complaining, he would ask them, "Hey, is this your first enlistment?" And he'd go, and if you said no, he would grind you into the dirt, and that was because you knew what it was after the first enlistment. You knew what to expect. Same thing with higher education. You can't know what to expect unless you've done it. So there are going to be certain things you're going to be like, oh, why am I filling out this FAFSA again, even though it's new every year, health records and things of that nature. And that was one of my big things in higher education. You had to turn health records into a university, even though the military stabbed you and poked you with every possible vaccine, everything that you could possibly have. So that was frustrating as well. So it just go into higher education. No, you're going to be frustrated. It's going to be confusing and hard. And if you're like me, I'm a first generation college student. I didn't think I was going to have one degree, let alone four, working towards a PhD. That I didn't know what a FAFSA was. I didn't know what an admissions process looked like. I didn't know those things. And I felt like every time I would ask somebody in a school, I was inconveniencing them to explain the process to me. And I'm a person that loves to know why I'm doing something, not just the how. So that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Robert, I see your hand up. We'll go ahead and let you ask. I don't want you to just sit there with your hand up for a long time.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that you kind of struck on something that was really interesting to me because I loathe school, but I do enjoy technical colleges. And I tried speaking to my education center, and the individual just kept going around and around saying, well, and I'm like, I'm coming to you to get answers, and you're avoiding everything. And so that's the route I'd like to take, but it sounds like you can't possibly get your, would you call it a BHM?
MHA, your housing allowance?
Correct.
Okay. So you don't get it unless you're enrolled. And the VA has standards, and actually you can look up, it's called a SCO handbook, the School Certified Official Handbook online. It's accessible. That's the living, breathing document of how to certify and get your benefit going, but from the school administrator side. I encourage my students to see the tables and things like that in there. And that's because there's a table that shows you a calculation on how many credit hours there are, and then how many credit hours is full time over X amount of weeks. So every school is different. Excelsior, we run 8-week semesters. So we have 6 semesters through the year. Most traditional higher education institutions have 16-week semesters, and they only run 2 and a summer semester, which is 8 weeks. So your calculation to the VA is about how many credit hours am I taking across this amount of time. And going back to what you said was the individuals talk in circles. I'm one of these people that are outside the stream of the compliance and regulatory now. So I'll tell you the truth.
Okay.
School administrators and recruiters don't like being nailed down to a decision because they're going to be held to account for it. So just like a lawyer would, just like in the law, just like any time like that, they're going to speak in generalities. They're going to speak in plural. They're going to speak in vague ambiguity terms because if you say something and they tell you an answer to that and they're wrong, guess who has to be held to account? It's them, that level. So most of the time you're talking to individuals that are pushing paper or just putting data in and checking boxes. So you're not talking to the subject matter expert about your benefit. You're actually talking to an individual that maybe has been doing it less time than the actual experts. And then there's only 1 or 2 experts at most institutions. And sometimes if it's a smaller school, they don't have a expert on hand. It's an additional duty assigned to a financial aid rep or something like that. So they're doing the best they can without without having that information. So that's another frustration point. So you don't see that because you don't know how that life works. So yeah, they're going to speak in generalities because they don't want to be in trouble for something. So yeah, to maximize your MHA, it's about enrolling. It's about how many credit hours you're taking across what time. So without getting into the nitty gritty of what school you're going to, what program you're going to, and the structure of their student catalog, that's something I could help you with one-on-one. If you want to send me an email to that email that I shared or message me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to help and kind of explain that and run you through that. But I don't know that until you see the student catalog, you see their schedule and what that is. And real quick, the other big lie of higher education, they call it a 4-year degree. A lot of people don't realize that a 4-year degree will take you 5.5 years if you do the minimum credit of 12 credits a semester. Because most degrees now at a bachelor's level is 124 credit hours on average at most public institutions. So divide that by 12, and how many semesters do you need to do 12 credit hours? So I always encourage my students, take the summer semester, add credit hours onto your semester. Don't just settle for the minimum. Get that done, because the last thing you want to do is not run out of GI Bill time and still not be finished. That would be the biggest kick in the butt that you could ever do.
The skill book or handbook, you said this one, is it specific to the school or is it a general one?
No, it's general. It's specific to the VA. So the VA as a whole has their own rules and regulations, which is the School Certifying Handbook. So I'll say that again. School Certifying Officials Handbook. It's online. It's a part of VA's open everything. So you can go in there and actually read through it yourself. I was one of those people that loved knowing more than the people that were processing my benefit, because I'm like, hey, you're wrong. You're like, you can't do this. I was a know-it-all while I was in the military. I loved, all my regulations. I was that NCO that you hated to hate, because I would quote it directly and then you just left there standing staring at me. But that's the thing with the SCO handbook. So that will show you exactly how the calculations work for your time. I'm not saying you have to pull it up, but you can control search or control find inside that handbook, because it's a web document. So you can find or jump to directly how your calculation works, and then understanding that. And then real quick, because Excelsior is fully remote, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention fully remote schools. If you're a fully online student, you only get 50% the national average. So they take the national average of all the MHAs out there that are in residence, they divide that in half, and that's how much you get for being a full-time online student. So if you're less than full-time and you're online, you're getting even less than the 50%. So that's one of the downturns from being fully online. But in the current position I'm in, I do deal a lot here. I'm here in DC. I deal with a lot of the legislation. I follow it very closely. With a lot of national organizations that we do conferences with, and I follow legislation very closely. News is coming. There's a bill that's being presented right now to eliminate the residential requirement to get your max MHA. So whether that's this year, next year, that's actually in the works. You can go to the house.gov site and look at the bill itself. It is online. It is maybe sort of happening. I don't know. I'm hoping it passes, because that would be a huge win for even places like me, Excelsior, that's fully online.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Good question, Robert. Jesse, I see your hand up.
All right. Hey, thanks, Patrick, for being here.
No problem.
Okay, so you guys are a fully online school.
We are. I did tell
Okay.
Tyler just in our last meeting, and I guess my pitch here is Excelsior is expanding to on-ground learning in the Tampa, St. Pete region.
No, I'm perfectly good with online.
Yeah, but we are launching a campus. It's
Okay.
actually already open, but it's a formal opening for students come the first of the year, and it's basically our nursing school on ground in Florida. So there is that.
Okay. Yeah, so my question was for the folks that are doing 100% online. Last I checked, you didn't get like the full BAH, all that stuff, right? It's like partial. Is that still a
Correct.
thing?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was saying about fully remote. So when I use terms like fully remote, online, in residence, residential, distance learning, those are all vernaculars, just like the military has. I always joke and say I speak like 4 languages. I speak veteran, I speak civilian, I speak higher education. There's a couple languages that I speak that have their own vernacular. So that's exactly right. So that's where the national average comes in. That's the rate for online learning, is 50% the national average, which if anybody is interested in higher education, and I'm not VA's best friend. I'm never going to speak up to what VA does best or doesn't do great because I've been behind bad paperwork and bad processing before. But the GI Bill comparison tool on the VA's website is a phenomenal resource. You can compare schools, what their MHA rate's going to be based on facility code. Because 3 years ago, when they passed the Colmar Act, they changed your MHA to where it was based on the school itself or the area code, and it was based on single E5 or married E5 with dependent rates, and then that all changed with Colmar. So your rates are actually
Oh.
calculated by the facility code. So where your school is, that's what you're getting paid. However, if you're fully online, they eliminate that code, and then it's just a culmination of what's the average of all the MHA rates out there, and then they divide it in half. That's how much you get for being a full-time online student.
I see. I see. Okay.
And
Yeah,
you
that
can
was
find
that was
that
my
right
question. It's like,
online. It's worth a Google. I always say it's worth a Google. And then the GI Bill comparison tool will show you that as well. So you can actually select the schools that you're looking at attending that's on there. And here's a fun fact about the GI Bill comparison tool. You can see the complaints levied against the school because they're official complaints. They stay on the record to the VA. So if they've received a VA complaint, what they did to articulate it, what the expenses of the school compared to other schools, what the average rate is, and then what other campuses they have. So sometimes you might be going to X school, but then they have a nursing school in a different location or another healthcare campus or another IT campus somewhere else. So it's not the main campus. So it's a different rate. That happens a lot. So I encourage people just exactly to know where you're going and the facility going, because that's going to equal dollar signs. That's where your money's going to be involved.
okay. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
No, great questions. Go ahead, Leslie.
Hey, yeah, Patrick, thank you so much for this opportunity. One question I have is I've heard some people say that you can take your courses remotely, but then if you can attend one class a semester in person, like come to school in person for one class, you could still get the full rate. Is that accurate information?
That's 100% accurate. So we have what we call the 3+1 or bridge programs with community colleges like Excelsior. So if you were going to a community college that we had a partnership with, and you took one class there in seat, but you were with us for the other 3 classes, you're still considered a fully residential student. The requirement by regulation for an in-seat student to be considered in-seat, fully residential, you have to come to camp, be made required to come to campus one time during the semester that you're certified for. So if you come to school to take an exam and you have to have that exam proctored on campus, that then makes that course residential. So you can fight with your SCO staff at that school and say, hey, you got me as fully online, but I had to come here. That should be a hybrid course. But likewise, if you want to attend a fully remote institution like Excelsior or some of the other fully online schools, and you found a community college that would still transfer your credit over to that other program for that fully online school, you can do that and become a full-time student getting max MHA. So that does happen. It gets a little difficult once you like the first year or so of your degree. Great, there's tons of credits to take, there's tons of electives to take, but then when you start getting closer to graduation, you need less requirement. It's going to become a little bit more difficult because less credit is going to transfer at an upper level rate. So that becomes a problem, and there's overlapping VA regulations that says your class has to be required to complete this degree in this program. And then there's also things going on behind the scenes. They're called parent and child letters. So who's the main university, then who's a secondary university, and that decides the pay structure as well. But you would get paid based on where your physical location is, not your online location. So keep that in mind too. So because I had friends that I'm here between Baltimore and DC. I've got friends that are willing to hop on a train every 16 weeks to go to New York for a physical class because it gets 4,400 in MHA versus the 2,400 MHA here in Maryland. So a 3-hour train ride's better every 16 weeks than coming, to a fully lined school. But sometimes it's a hassle to do that kind of stuff. So I've had friends go from Florida all the way to Texas just to do stuff like that. So I've heard weird, crazy stories that do that, but there's no regulation that stops you from doing that. It's just a matter of understanding how that works and getting your ducks in a row plan wise before you attempt it, because last thing you want to do is be out of pocket for a bunch of expenses and then behind the eight ball in your education journey.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, good question. Go ahead, Nia.
So I'm in the process of applying to colleges right now, and I noticed that most of them are about like $70 to $80 per application. So I was wondering if you know of any resources where maybe the VA will help pay that, or is that just on us?
VA does not pay certain fees. There's certain fees the VA is just never going to pay. You can't charge a
Okay.
graduation fee to the VA. You
Okay.
can't charge an application fee to the VA, because any fees you can charge to the VA are what are called mandatory fees that everybody has to pay, that they're assessed to everybody. Now, why an application fee is assessed to everybody, you're not guaranteed to be at that school, so you're not normally going to be reimbursed for an application. Now, I'm going to say this, looking at the school in question, one of the old institutions that I worked for, one of the traditional brick and mortar schools that I worked for, we had like no fees November. We had no fees March. So at some point during the semester or year, we had a no fees month where you would be able to apply to any program and it not charge you. Now, saying that to say this, if it's a state-run institution, many, I'm going to say, I don't think I found a state yet that doesn't have a military fees waiver. They'll have a military fee or a veteran fee application waiver, which you find it, fill it out, and submit it to the school with your application, and then it's, oh, I'm good. So sometimes if you reach out to the admissions department or whoever's in charge of those applications, sometimes it's enrollment management, it's admissions, it's whatever. Ask for a military fee waiver for your application, and 9 times out of 10, if it's a state-run institution, it's gonna have a fee waiver. So don't come out of pocket for $80 each, $30 each. Now, transcripts, it can't help you with transcripts because everybody loves parchment, $10
Yeah.
transcript fees. But especially not having an official transcript, which is even worse. But yeah, there's application fees to the schools. I would reach out to the school before you apply, because a lot of times, and I'm going to say this too, a lot of schools out there are hurting on enrollment. Traditional ed is hurting. They're bleeding students to certification world, to other industries. So if you reach out and say, hey, I want to apply, but you charge me $30, they might just give you a waiver, even if they don't have one by the state law. So, and it's because they want you to be a student. Institutions are hurting just as much as businesses right now when it comes to finding candidates and finding enrollees that are going to, the best 2 words in higher education, persist and sustain. That means you're going to finish your degree and you're going to come back time and time again. So they want good students to do that. So reach out before you apply and just hit that submit button with your credit card attached, because 9 times out of 10, you can probably get recruited or be enrolled without the money involved.
That's good to know. Another question.
Yep.
So that BAH rate that you're talking about per school, that's only given out once a month, correct? Or is it like how we typically get our pay, the first and the 15th?
So here's the vernacular change. I talk about the languages. So I'm going to let everybody know, call it MHA. So the VA, it's monthly housing allowance. In the service, we know it as BHA. See, I'm mixing up because I've been in the veteran world too long. BAH. So if I'm on housing, you get BAH. If I have dependents, you get BAH. In the veteran world, it's MHA. So if you call them the VA, they're not going to understand. They're going to understand because they're veterans themselves most of the time, but they're going to want you to call it MHA. So yes, you'll get it the first of the month. No, if you get a disability check, you get it day 1 of the month. Same thing with your MHA. You get it the first of the month until you're no longer full time. And then, so I'll give you an example. If you're at a traditional school that goes from August to December, that's 16 weeks. So that's 4 months. And here's the other crazy part. The VA actually calculates it to the day. The school behind the scenes, when they're putting your enrollment into the VA system in the enrollment manager, they're saying here they're starting on August 18th, they're finishing December 12th. The VA actually counts the days between there, and that's how they calculate out how much MHA you're getting. So this rate is standard, but that first month, so when August gets paid on September 1st, it's a month behind. So when August gets paid September 1st, you're only getting paid for the 12 days of August or 13 days of August or however long you're in school. Your first full MHA check would be then October 1st for the month of September, then another one, then another one. So January 1st hits, you're actually only getting the 12 days of December. So when you're looking at your schedule, I used to do this for all my students. I would print out just a blank calendar and do a highlight and say, here's where I'm getting paid. Then I would square off each of my full-time months. So I knew this is a full MHA check, this is a full MHA check, here's a partial, so on and so forth. So that's how you set yourself up for success. I'm blanking out here. But that's how you do it. Because if you know where your money's coming from and how much is supposed to be coming in each month, if the VA messes it up or the school messes it up, you know something's wrong and you need to reach out. So understand that too. So understand the schedule you're going into just as much as the benefit that's supposed to be paid. So you're getting paid a month behind and you're getting paid the rate for the amount of days that you're in school.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
No, great questions. Great questions. Jesse, go ahead.
Okay, so I have another question.
Uh-huh.
Transferring credits over to your university. So I already have a bachelor's degree and I'm looking to get a computer science degree. How do you see that going as far as like what credits would transfer and stuff like that?
So here's you got to compare. A lot of times you're comparing apples to oranges, and sometimes even a banana thrown in there. So my question would be: are you going for a second bachelor's? Or are you trying to skill up and go for a master's?
Yeah, so I tried to go to a master's degree and it didn't work out. It
Okay.
just so I'm gonna try to take it. I'm gonna be humble and just try to get a second bachelor's.
Okay. I don't say be humble because I never would have had a master's degree had I just not done it. Okay. Like, I'm not a higher education person. Still a grinder that I never thought I'd be there. So, master's degree is a phenomenal goal to get to. I only went to get my master's degree because I work in higher ed. And if you don't have a PhD, you're not getting promoted. Okay. So that's why I did that. Now, in your field, certifications matter well more most of the time than degrees.
Hmm.
Especially once you start stacking them and getting up there in the upper echelons. My last company was an IT certification company. That's what we did. I did boot camps and things of that nature, PMP, so on and so forth. So when you're looking at that, look at your journey, see what your goal is. I would ask myself, I would internalize that as I want this second bachelor's to do this, but you got to ask yourself, what does that get you in the industry that your current one won't with a couple of certifications? I'm not trying to turn you off from getting another degree. That's never going to hurt you. It only hurts your wallet and maybe your brain and your patience, but it's never going to hurt you professionally. It's only going to help you. I do know in the IT space, besides the knowing the tasking of your job and knowing how to do tasks, because that's where the certification comes in. That's task-based knowledge, where a degree is knowledge and curriculum, right? Academic knowledge. So that will help you get promoted and moved up to leadership roles where you're not necessarily crunching buttons as much, but you're developing staff. Whereas certifications is your staff. So understand what I would ask myself, what's my professional journey? What's my professional goal ultimately? And if it is something greater than entry level or mid management, go get that other degree so you can show that you have not only the knowledge and experience, but the ability to do those tasks. So transfer credit wise, I'll say this: most states, if you're a state school, if you keep credit inside of a university system or keep credit inside of a state system, they have what are called bridge programs that a community college has to, or a university has to accept all the community college credit in that area, right? So most of the time, that's what happens in what they call a higher education ecosystem. Then you have schools like Excelsior, or I'm not going to mention competitors' names, but there are other schools out there that are called credit aggregators that you bring in a whole bunch of transcripts. They consolidate all your stuff into one transcript, and then you're off on your journey. But then, like Excelsior, you would have a minimum level of credit you have to take to be successful in completing that degree. So why a degree is 124 credit hours and you're bringing in 90 something, we're going to make you take at least 15 with us, because that's how we know those upper echelon classes and courses are legitimate. We want to confer a degree that matters, and go from there. So that's all those things that happen. So it's different in every state. It's different with every university system. It's different with every college. So the other bad part about a second bachelor's is your financial aid. So even though you might have GI Bill, everybody, apply for FAFSA because you're going to get free Pell money. That's a refund back to you every semester. It's free. I call it free earned money. So if your only income is like disability and GI Bill, you're going to look great on a FAFSA application, especially if you have kids and you're married. So you'll get a credit refund back from the Pell every semester. And that would be a good $2,000-3,000 every semester, depending on the school you're at. But what happens with financial aid at a certain level, it's called dead credit. So if you have a bunch of dead credit sitting on your transcript at the same level of your degree, so a bachelor's to a bachelor's, you're not going to qualify for Pell anymore. You're not going to qualify for financial aid anymore because you've exceeded, there is an exceeded amount of credit. And it's right around the 150, 154 credit hour mark where you start running into financial aid issues.
I
The
see.
VA doesn't care though. VA, go get it. As long as you're in a set approved program, they'll pay for it.
Right on. So, I guess in my case, Excelsior offers computer science master's degrees.
We do. Well, I believe our master's in our computer science is actually in cybersecurity specifically. I could be wrong, but I believe that is in fact the case in technology. I'm on my website right now. Yeah, we have a graduate level certificate in cybersecurity operations, and then a master's degree in cybersecurity, and then have a bunch of under-level technology degrees as well. So we would bring your credit in, evaluate it, and you would know exactly where you stand. What degree did you say you were looking at, the second degree?
Computer science.
So we have a BS in computer science. It's actually only 120 hours. So we would most likely take all of your undergrad credit, depending where it came from, and a good chunk of your upper level credit. So you might only be a year off of a second bachelor's degree. At most.
I was looking at that possibility because that could be worth it for me.
That's what I did. I started in economics at a bachelor's level, and then I was like, oh, I got 18 months of GI Bill time, and being the good MP that I am, I just turned around and got all my transfer credit rolled over into a criminal justice degree, and got my BS in criminal justice and criminology, doing forensic psychology. So,
Nice.
you got the time left, go get it. I mean, that's just money sitting out there.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much.
No, great questions. Javilia. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, that's actually pretty close. Thank you. I just had a quick question about funding using GI Bill or Montgomery for a PhD program. I've heard good things about both. So I'm not sure. And also I know that GI Bill or Montgomery both are only for 36 months. But if I'm going to be in a program anywhere between 5 to 6, which is the best one that can help me maximize the money I
You're going to
get?
get me on a whole can of worms here and get me heated up too at the same
I'm
time.
sorry.
Okay. So let's start here. It's not that GI Bill's bad for PhDs. It's that you would already, there's only 1 or 2 doctoral programs that I know of, like a doctorate of physical therapy. You can go right from a bachelor's right into the DPT program. There's a few programs in the world like that, but only a few institutions that are credited for it. Otherwise, you're going to take the traditional steps: bachelor's, master's, PhD program. So let's say you're in that and you have all of your GI Bill intact because you were a good service member and you used all your TA, and I wasn't. Used all your TA and you got your degree while you're in the service and you got your master's while you're in the service. So now you're getting out, you got 36 months of your benefit ahead of you for a PhD program.
That's exactly my situation right now.
Perfect. All right. So thank you. And that's I used to say that's my favorite type of service member because you have a plan, you have a goal. So now I get to help you articulate the details of your plan and goal in your journey versus helping you formulate the thought of it. So you're going to get 36 months of benefits. Well, you did the math on 36 months. That's going to get you to year 3 of a PhD. You're not even going to be writing. You're not even going to be writing dissertation by that point. You're going to still be taking classes. So you start looking at the program in totality. So when you get your PhD advisor, you're going to say, hey, what's my schedule going to look like over these next however many years? Even if you write fast, well, and here's the question, and this is specific. What's your PhD going to be in? Is that going to be an MD or is it going to be a
So
PhD?
I have well, I still have 5 more months, so I don't want to start a PhD until after I get out. But
Right.
I'm looking at two tracks. If I go like with my degree I have from a bachelor's and master's, then it's going to be like an aerospace engineering. Or I'm also trying to go into theology. If I do that, then I have to get a master's as well. I can't go directly into a
So if you
PhD.
stay in
So
aerospace, you can go directly into that. Matt literally got a rocket scientist in this cohort. This is great.
so
So if you, let's say you take that route where you're going straight into the PhD because you already have the master's in the area and you qualify for the PhD route. So if you do that, then you're going to have some stuff transfer, but nothing transfers because it's a different level. Just like bachelor's has 2 levels. You have an upper level and a lower level. Master's is only graduate level. Then you have a terminal degree in the PhD space. So if you got accepted in, let's say you get accepted into a program, you're going to have a PhD advisor assigned to you. And then they're going to say, hey, here's what you're going to do. If you say, hey, I'm going to be the best student I can be, I'm going to do all this early and on time, how long is this program going to take me? And they're going to say, oh, on average, it takes, they're not going to give you a right answer because they don't know. They don't trust you to be that kind of student. So let's just say it takes you 5 years and you're doing dissertation work year 3. You're going to be out of GI Bill by dissertation time. You're going to be writing to write and nobody's going to be paying for it. So then you're coming out of pocket. So you got to ask yourself, is that what I want to do? And if that's what you want to do, great. Also, so your second part of your question is what's better to use? Here's another thing that's not widely known unless you are in the circles of higher education and you follow things. The VA was sued. The federal government was sued about 3 or 4 years ago by a group of veterans in Tennessee that said, hey, I paid for the Montgomery GI Bill. I paid that $1,200 from the Montgomery GI Bill. I earned the post 9/11 GI Bill, which was 3 years of service after training. And then you say, okay, well, those two shouldn't conflate with each other. And the VA used to make you select. You used to have to say, hey, I'm using my Montgomery over my 9/11. And then that took away. That took away from one another. That no longer happens. So now they never really came back, and the VA fought in the Supreme Court and still lost. So now you get your 36 months of your Montgomery, 36 months of your GI Bill, and the big one, 36 months of Chapter 31 GI VRE, which is a disability benefit to just veterans. So you are not going to qualify for VRE because you already have an upper level degree. VRE's predominant goal is to employability. They want to make sure you're living in the same life you would have in the service based on your disability rating. So you're going to be really subject to your Montgomery and your 9/11. So when you do start to plan that journey, you now do have 2 benefits to use. Montgomery doesn't pay the school directly, so you still have to come out of pocket and you're basically getting reimbursed. So you got to know which benefit you want to use when. What's more cost effective for you? What's better? That's an efficiency that needs to be planned. But you need to know your goal, your journey, and your goal in your PhD first. So you use that as your framework and then overlay your benefits across it and say, I'm using these here and then I'm using this one here. And that's the best way to make that happen. So without knowing the details, I know not everybody's in that boat. That's a very unique boat to be in. So just if you needed more guidance, I'm happy to help. But that's not something I think we could do here.
okay. Sorry, one last question. What if I'm to take breaks in between? Which is more
You just
flexible?
don't get paid. You don't get paid. If you're not in school, you're not getting MHA, you're not getting benefits. You're
Okay.
only getting paid while you're an enrolled student and certified.
Yeah, but like which is more flexible if I want to take breaks in between and not
Oh,
just
both of
complete
them.
my.
There's
Oh,
nothing that
both.
you
Oh,
start and
okay.
stop. Yeah, there's nothing you start and stop with the GI Bill. The
Okay.
President Trump's first term, he signed the Forever GI Bill, which
Mm,
then didn't let your GI Bill expire after you started. Back in the day, you only had 15 years from activation to use that benefit.
okay.
So you had people that would start a college credit, go to work, and then go, "Oh, I'm about to run out," and then here you go, they're out of benefit. So that's changed too. So yeah, use it. You pick it up and put it down, just like a pair of shoes. You put the GI Bill on, you take it off. It's not like you have to use it. It's your choice to use it.
I'm sorry. One last question. Top up, was that the Red Ribbon program where they cover for the rest of the semester if you run out of GI Bill? Is that something?
So there's Yellow Ribbon.
Oh, Yellow Ribbon, my bad.
So
Yeah.
Yellow Ribbon is actually a program. It's a lot of students come to me and say, "I want to use my Yellow Ribbon." No, you don't use your Yellow Ribbon. It's an agreement. A Yellow Ribbon program is an agreement between the university and the VA that says, "Hey, if this service member, their tuition exceeds this amount of money, the university will cover half of it, and then the VA will come in and cover the other half." So that's if a school's a Yellow Ribbon school, it's just an agreement between the two institutions to cover the remainder of a tuition debt. Now, top out is actually a run out. It's if you're in the last semester of your degree and you run out, let's say you run out of GI Bill by a month, and the VA is going to pay you to the rest of that semester. Okay, so they'll cover the full tuition costs of that semester, even though you're running out of GI Bill. So that only works in the one is the instance that you start a semester but run out in the middle of the semester, but the VA will cover all of it, pending you're in good standing with the VA.
Thank
So
you so much.
you use two terms but two separate programs. So yes,
Okay.
that works. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, great question. AJ.
Hey Patrick. So have you in your experience, have you seen somebody who is like for me, personally, I'm like 80% done with my degree. I've been like I think in the system, I've been a first year senior for like 3 years. But have you seen somebody transfer over and a lot of the credits just don't really stick
Transfer.
with
Yeah,
your program? So a lot of
that's
them
what I
just kind of hang
call,
out.
yeah, it's called dead credit on transcript, and that
Yep.
weighs you down. One, it's very discouraging because you're like, I did all this work already. Why am I redoing it? The one thing I don't like is when you've already, let's say, again, in our business degree, you took management already. You took a different level of management or organizational structures or whatever, and then you come over here and we're like, hey, you still have to take this, but it's the exact same class, just a different level or a different name. That's even more frustrating than dead credit. Always like at Excelsior, we can pre-do a what we call HLRs, high level reviews. We can pre-do what we are gonna, I call it the you have margins of error. So how can you look at a transcript and say, when I do a transcript evaluation, it's not official. It's going to be like, this is my experience telling me that this is going to work. Now, when you go to the actual transfer team, which is TAC in our admissions team, they're going to officially evaluate your credit against our accreditation, against our pathways, against our transfers, against everything to see, because some fields, like medical fields, some credit expires. Like you got to retake your biologies after 3 or 5 years in some states. Because you want to be the most fresh on those before you graduate. So depending on the program matters, but for the most part, if it's dead credit, you can always appeal decisions. And if you don't get a good shake on it, don't go to the school. Leave. I'm going to tell you, if you don't get a good taste in your mouth from Excelsior, I want to have quality students that want to be here because this is the place for them with the program that's for them. If that's not going to work for you and best fit your lifestyle, then I want you to be happy somewhere else, if that makes sense.
It does.
So, yeah, I want your benefit to be the best for you and you to be the most happy with your benefit time. Because again, higher education is already a hard enough journey. And I say this, if I can get a degree, anybody can. Just be patient. And I say that. And that's because a lot of people just want to get it done and run through it. But if you do it right, take your patience, you'll overcome it. You'll finish.
And then so for VRNE to kick in, we would have to be already DD214, like out of
No.
the military?
VRE, if you're in a med board process, you are actually can meet with a VRE counselor during phase one. So if you've got like unfit and you're in the med board program, VRE specifically works with like VSOs and stuff like that during the med board process to get you ready to go. So you can literally be handed off to our VRE counselor. Otherwise, let's say you get out, then you get a 10 to 30% or higher percentage rating from the VA. You then qualify as a VRE student. Now it's a matter of your status if you qualify for VRE as a student. So if you already have a degree and you're already employable, you might not get accepted into that because the only big difference in VRE and the others, you get a counselor. They're there to watch you. You forego all your FERPA rules and regulations. They get to see your transcripts. They get to see your attendance record. They get to see how you're doing. They get status reports from the school. They get to tell you, hey, they'll say, I'm not paying for that class this semester because they failed it twice. I'm not paying it for it until they pass this one. So that's kind of the guardrails there. It's a more robust paying program because it doesn't affect your GI Bill. It doesn't affect your Montgomery or your 911. And VRE programs, they'll pay for a technology package. They can give you like $2,000 to the school to get you a laptop and a printer and a bag and a case and all this other stuff and software and hardware, depending on what your needs are. They'll pay for travel. If you have to go to a clinical site, they can give you mileage. The only thing they can't do is increase your MHA. That's the only thing they really can't do. So VRE is a way more educationally robust program, but there's more hoops to jump through to get VRE. So just know that too. That comes with even more patience to do it. So every semester is a journey. But VRE, I love VRE for what it is. It used to be called Voc Rehab. It's still Chapter 31 of your GI Bill. So if you're looking at that, look up Chapter 31 VRE, and there's that. So yeah, you're just dealing with a middleman. You have a counselor in between you and the school now. So all three of you got to be on the same page. And sometimes it's easy with a good, you'll know a good counselor because it'll just happen. But you definitely know a bad counselor because you have roadblocks. So just keep that in mind with VRE.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
We got a little bit of time left. I want to get to all three. We got three people with their hands up. I want to get to all three questions. Go ahead, Kristen.
Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'm active duty. I'm transitioning out. Specific type of question. My spouse is a reservist and he's also a government employee. So are there benefits that I can use / apply to without even dipping into my GI Bill, but due to the fact that I am a spouse of someone who's in? I know that's very specific, so.
How long did your spouse qualify for VRE? Not for VRE, excuse me, for the GI Bill. Like as a reservist, did they build enough time, accrue enough time to get a full COE?
Yes.
Well, one, he can transfer you the benefit. If he says, I'm not going back to school ever, he can transfer you his GI Bill still now. He can literally hand you his GI Bill if he's got GI Bill time. Otherwise, if he's 100% through the VA as well, so if he's got a VA rating of 100%, you qualify for Chapter 35 DEA, which is a Dependents Educational Assistance Program. So it won't pay MHA and it doesn't pay tuition directly, but it pays you a direct stipend each month for being a full-time student. So that would help mitigate and offset some of the costs. So if you're not working and you have FAFSA and DEA coming in, you can very well get a 4-year degree fully paid for and still live comfortably on FAFSA and DEA if he qualifies for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Awesome. Leslie.
Hey, Patrick, sorry for coming back again. I got one more question. I know you mentioned it already, but I just want to clarify it. You talked about having to use your Montgomery GI Bill and then your post 9/11. So if I already have a bachelor's, because right now I have a bachelor's in business, but I want to get a master's in cybersecurity, would I be able to use, say, like my post 9/11 to get my master's with, and then if I was to go for my PhD, use the other Montgomery GI Bill for my PhD, or no?
I say like this, the only benefit that actually requires a certain matter of eligibility or status in higher education is VRE. That's the only one you can't just use willy-nilly. You have to use it for employability purposes and meet a disability rating. If you have Montgomery GI Bill, so old Chapter 30, or Chapter 33 post 9/11, if you have both fully intact and they're 100% and fully paid up, use them as you want. Intermix them. That's fine. But you can't use them both at the same time. You can never use more than 36 months of any one benefit. So know that. So it's a situation for you. Can you come out of pocket to use the GI Bill for your master's and then get paid back using Montgomery? Sure, if that status works best for you. But I don't know what your financial status is, right? I always say post 9/11 is great because it pays tuition directly to the institution, gives you your money, and you get a book stipend with it. That's more structured. You have to be a little bit less responsible. But with Montgomery, you got to be a little bit more responsible. You have to actually oversee those finances. You have to oversee those things. So it's a matter of you. What would work best for you in the current situation, and plan out your journey for later on too. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the two benefits. And by all means, again, go to the VA website and compare both benefits to one another, and learn both benefits for your own, because that's going to help you plan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, Patrick. I just want to clarify something. So I'm in the same position as, I want to say her name was Jabilia, where I already used my TA to do my master's and stuff. So I would like to pursue PhD next. So you're saying I have 72 months total with GI and Montgomery. Is that what you're saying?
I'm never going to tell you have 72 months of any benefit. I'm going to sit here and say what the book says, which is you'll never have any more than 36 months of any one benefit.
Okay. I mean, I'll reach out offline to verify some other stuff, but that's what I was trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
so you won't be able to, you're not going to be able to use it, any one benefit more than 36 months, because again, that's the requirement. So there are benefits that stack, but not when it comes to adults. So like my wife and I were both military, we're both 100% now. So all four of my boys get double Chapter 35 benefits when they go, but they will never have more than 36 months total. So they'll get double the monthly rate, but not more than 36 months of it. So understand that there are limitations and restrictions in how you stack and use those benefits. So no, yeah, you're not going to run out 72 months of the clock. It's not going to happen like that. Yeah, I always tell people though, for your own sake, look at your plan and overlay the benefits so you know. And again, 33 is always going to be your more robust benefit. So I would encourage using all 36 months of that before you explore the Montgomery side, just because it's less robust. You get less from it.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, Patrick, that was a lot of information. I'm so glad that you were able to jump on. I knew there was a bunch of questions about, talking about our benefits, our post 9/11 Montgomery GI Bill. How do they interact? What's the best way? I mean, there's so much information. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of connection requests right after this. I'm sure your inbox is full with following questions. But I greatly appreciate you coming on board and discussing that with us, and kind of presenting that information to our students here today.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm happy to do it. And I'll be more than excited for any other requests and emails that come in. If it takes me a minute to get to you, I'm sorry. But I do still have a full-time job. And again, you already heard me say 4 kids, and I try to help out with many organizations. So more than happy to be a part of Seven Eagle and helping your mission and the students and transitioning service members here.
I do have one last question for you before we let you go, though, and it's a little bit pivot away from the education benefit side. You guys still have openings there at Excelsior University that you guys are hiring for?
So we did have, I think 2 or 3 SkillBridgers at Seven Eagle apply for one of our jobs. The job, especially our on-campus job down in St. Petersburg, we did just recently fill that. However, we are working very diligently to get other positions filled there. I will say, if you're interested in working for Excelsior in higher education, feel free to reach out to me directly. And then if there's a role on our website that you specifically like, hey, let me try to get that, I don't mind if you say, hey, I was referred by, and then use my name and say you're referred, because HR will reach out and be like, hey, is this person, whatever. And I'm just going to say, yep, that's a partnership individual. So I'm more than happy to go to bat for you, whether I personal with you or not. So I know Seven Eagles turning out great candidates and great students. So I appreciate what you guys do.
All right. Awesome, Patrick. Thank you so much again. We'll let you get back to your day, and we'll see you very soon.
Yep, no problem. Everybody have a great day.
Awesome.
See you.
All right. Well, that was a lot of information, guys. I hope every single person on this call learned a little bit about their benefits. We've got an amazing speaker coming up next. In fact, we've got some students leading this conversation up next. We got Sheila and Heidi both leading that conversation next. You guys both here? I hope you guys are. I know Heidi is.
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome.
Here.
Nice. All right. Let's see if James is here. But if he's not, what we'll do is we'll go on a short break. You guys, if you want to take a couple minutes, be back here.